If you are feeling chronic self-doubt despite high achievement, despite being highly successful, and no matter what you do, you just can't shake that self-doubt, then you will have to ask yourself these 3 questions. If you don't ask yourself these 3 questions, chances are incredibly high that you will spend the rest of your life missing so many opportunities, wasting so much time, procrastinating, questioning yourself, that you will never fulfill your full potential. I have worked with over 300 people who have experienced inner blocks like self-doubt, imposter syndrome, procrastination. So I want you to answer these questions as honestly as possible. There's no right or wrong answer here. Maybe the answers will sound completely illogical to you. That's also normal. That's a good sign. But please don't censor yourself because you feel like the answers are not the right ones, or maybe you will feel uncomfortable during this process, which is also normal, but which is also a sign of making progress. Then the last tip before we begin, I want you to write down the answers that come up for you. It doesn't matter, like I said, how the answers sound like, what you answer, but just write it down freely, okay? You don't have to show this to anyone. This is a completely private exercise for you, but please write them down and just be as non-judgmental as you can about this whole process. Now, question number 1, how does the current self-doubt you experience protect you in any way, shape, or form? Think about what you want to achieve. Think about who you want to be in this world. Think about what will happen if you actually achieved what you wanted to achieve. If you actually saw yourself as the person you are on paper. And I know this is a weird question. It sounds completely illogical. Why would there be some negative consequence of you being without self-doubt, right? Doesn't make sense. But remember, your beliefs that create the self-doubt don't make really sense either. So ask yourself, if you actually got what you wanted, if you were this big person, if you were this big energy, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I can give you some examples because I know that's not an easy question to answer. Maybe coming into your bigness and really feeling it could have consequences. Maybe for your relationship, maybe for a relationship with a relative, maybe with your parents, maybe with your husband or wife. Maybe there's a part of you that feels it doesn't deserve to be this person. Maybe there's a belief inside you that says, there's so many people not getting what they want. There's so many people suffering in the world. Who am I to be this big successful person that just gets everything they want? It could also go in this direction. And I know this is not logical territory. Yeah, this is not logical. But beliefs that create self-doubt are not logical. So it doesn't help us to ask ourselves logical questions, okay? I'll give you some examples here because this work is deeply personal and there's no one size fits all, but I hope this gives you some inspiration. The next, question number 2. What would you have to believe about yourself in order to feel this self-doubt? This question is a really good exercise in stepping back and seeing yourself kind of from a distance and asking yourself, okay, in order for me to have this self-doubt, in order for me to question myself, my achievements, my capabilities, and so on, what do I need to believe about myself first in order to experience this doubt? Because if you didn't believe some kind of things that go in that direction, you would not experience this self-doubt. The self-doubt would simply not be there, or it would just be there in a very mild version, but it would not be there despite your achievements, despite all your credentials, despite the things that you have accomplish in this lifetime. So you see, the self-doubt is not logical, but if you ask yourself, what do I have to believe about myself in order to feel the self-doubt? This gives you an excellent place to be, where you can get a flavor, a feeling for the beliefs that create the self-doubt. So I'm going to give you an example, because I know this can sound abstract and kind of complicated. But one belief that I see very often in high achieving people is the belief that they're somehow just not as good as other people, or they're somehow just not quite enough. Like their work is not enough, they themselves as a person is not enough, and so on. And I know that may sound intimidating, it is not a comfortable place we want to be. Like, we don't want to imagine that we may somehow not believe that we are good enough. But the thing is, most people and most successful people have this kind of belief where they feel like, I'm just not quite enough. I have to achieve more until I can let go of the self-doubt. I need to get this done or earn this amount of money. So really ask yourself this question: what would you have to believe about yourself in order to feel that self-doubt? Because it doesn't come out of nowhere. Another example could be the belief that you're not as competent as others. So you always question yourself, like, do I have a place here? Is this really for me? Am I really like the other people, the other big people out there? Yeah. Give yourself a moment and think about that question. Then question number 3 is an excellent question, but it goes even deeper than the other questions before. So take a deep breath and try to resist the urge to click away from this video and try to answer it as honestly as you can. And I want you to think about your early years in life, your experience that you had. And I want you to ask yourself, where did you first learn that you're not quite enough? It could be that you maybe learned this at school, with your teachers. It could be that a caregiver or a parent kind of created an environment where you learned that. This doesn't mean, by the way, that your caregivers told you directly you're not good enough. In order for this belief to be created, you don't need to have a direct statement like that. It can happen in non-verbal ways. It can happen in experiences. It can happen in experiences with your peers, like maybe in school, or if you were in a club or somewhere. But somehow, somewhere, your system picked that belief up. And it's always helpful when we can connect the feelings that we have today as an adult, like the self-doubt, to something we have experienced when we were younger, because it gives us a connection and we can easily see, this is where it comes from. It doesn't mean I'm flawed. It's just an experience I had which created a belief, and today as an adult, I'm still operating under that belief, which is completely normal, by the way. So congratulations if you have answered those 3 questions. I know it's not easy. I know it doesn't feel good. We don't want to do that work, but it's the work that really goes to the root cause. And now the question is, okay, how do I interpret these answers? How do I make sense of them? And the important thing is that the self-doubt you have is not an accident. It comes from subconscious beliefs that you have about yourself. And in order for that self-doubt to vanish forever, permanently, the job is to identify those beliefs and to release them. And this is the work that I do with clients. I do this work since 2019, when I first built my German business, and now I'm transitioning into the English market. But this is the work that you have to do. And Your answers that you have written down, hopefully, will give you an idea of what kind of beliefs that are in the way, what kind of beliefs you need to delete in order for the self-doubt to vanish. Now, what's really important in this work is this is not an intellectual exercise. I am myself, I'm a very analytical person. I live in my head a lot, and I know it's very easy to think, oh, okay, so maybe I have to believe that I'm not good enough, but I will just kind of, put it under the rug and just pretend it's not there, or just use affirmations and affirm every day that I'm enough, and I will write down why I'm enough, and then it will go away. But if you have worked with your self-doubt for quite some time, you know this is just not enough. And the reason it's not enough is because those beliefs don't speak an intellectual language. They are not rational, they're not logical, and they won't respond to intellectual work. Okay, that's the reason they're still here. So, what does this mean? It means that your self-doubt won't go away on its own. It won't go away just because you're aware of it, and it won't even go away just because you know where it comes from. So, your work is to really remove those beliefs from your subconscious. This doesn't have to be complicated or long or painful. I have worked with over 350 people on thousands of those beliefs, and I've developed a method that will delete them in a very short amount of time. So if you want to work with me, you can book your free call with me down with the link below. The only permanent solution is really to delete those beliefs in your subconscious, and then I will tell you, you will have a new life. You will be able to fulfill your potential. You will stop wasting hours every week questioning yourself, procrastinating, and yeah, you will be fully able to finally be yourself. And in my next video, I will explain why imposter syndrome can't be resolved with things like therapy or journaling or mindset or performance coaching. So please subscribe to my channel and like this video if it was beneficial for you.